Hello everyone, thank you for tuning into our virtual live event today. It's really great to have you here. Sid and I were just discussing the weather. It's very grey in London, so I hope you have the sun wherever you are. It's a really exciting topic that we're going to be talking about today, so I'm really excited to be here. My name is Amy, for those of you who don't know, and I'm one of the customer success managers at Web Spiders and also the event moderator or the host for this webinar. And joining me today is our wonderful CEO, Sid. Hi, Sid.
Hello. Hey, how are you?
Yes, I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
Good. Very good.
Great. Thank you for being here. So today we're going to be talking about our secure enterprise chatbot, which is ZOE. ZOE is the only integrated customer service automation technology on phone, mail and chat. And it powers amazing retail experiences in over 16 shopping malls in the UK and in France, which you have probably heard of and probably actually used without even maybe realizing. So this webinar is for retailers and e-commerce as well, as we talk about selling through chatbots too, and discuss how to successfully implement chatbot catalogs through SMS or text, WhatsApp, and also the web. And as well as sharing examples of how our retail partners are using ZOE Chat to assist and engage customers from a customer service kind of point of view, but also help improve and really drive sales. So it's a really exciting time in a very virtual modern world. And you know, speaking from myself, I'm a millennial, and I know that we are sat there on our trains wanting to, you know, have quick access to everything. So I know that this is going to be really popular. It already is popular, but it's just, you know, going to grow and become more popular during this time. So I'm really excited to talk to you today, Sid, about this and learn from you and from your experiences. So I'd like to hand over to you now. You have the slides here and you can take us through, and I may have some questions for you along the way, and anybody else, if you want to pop up in the chat and ask us questions too, we'd be happy to take them along.
Yeah. So I'm going to try and make this really productive, right? We have, how much time do we have today? About 45 minutes, right, in total?
Yeah.
So you know, this is really, I want to give some practical tips. And, you know, one of the numbers, and this is from Zendesk and eMarketer. So these are all independent numbers. And in fact, now it's even higher because of what happened last year.
Yeah.
Is this, you know, the nature has changed. You know, there was a time, maybe in the, you know, 1950s or 1960s, I'm not trying to date anything, but, you know, there was a time when the default customer service was to actually visit face-to-face, right?
Sure.
If you had a problem, you went to the branch, you went to the shop, you went to an in-person place, and people felt more comfortable doing that. And of course, then the next round was with the phones, right? So initially people still did that, but then when the phones came in and became more popular, and I'm talking about landlines, not really mobile phones, you know, people started calling, and that's how the entire help centers and call facilities and, you know, the boom. You saw the boom in the call center industry. It employs millions of people even today, because that was the default. You know, you did not imagine that if you had a problem with something you bought as a consumer, that you would need to you know, travel, especially when they may not be nearby. And what's happened now, and you and me and everybody can compare that. You know, if you could, you would like self-service, and there's so many examples for that. So this is something really important to digest.
Yeah.
Of course, the other alternative to say the phone was chat. So you had all these live chat options, right? Especially on the websites. You know, and they work fine. They work fine if they are manned. Actually, they work fine if they're fine. The problem with it is not scalable. Now, if you know, if you're an airline customer, or if you're a customer with the power utilities, you can imagine they have millions of customers, and you know, if everybody is chatting, then it's just not easy.
Yeah.
Even on the phones, you know, they at the end today, even when you call a bank, there are all these numbers for self-service. You know, you want to request annual fee waiver, like in Singapore, where I was for nearly 7 years. Like for example, when I call back saying that, hey, this is a annual charge on my credit card, but when you signed me in, you said it's free for life. And I just need to press a number to request waiver. And sometimes they give me an immediate discussion. I've not even spoken to anybody. So live chat is great if there are people. The problem is resourcing, and the problem is speed, because often the agents have to go and check a lot of systems to give you a proper response. They don't have the knowledge base. So you would have experienced that you're on the live chat and you're waiting.
Yeah, I have had that experience. I have had that many times where I have been waiting, and I do come from that that group of people that are, you know, wanting fast answers, and they're fairly impatient. Yes. But I've had that experience, definitely.
Yeah, and I know in the UK, you know, things, at least, you know, there's a whole series of hello, how are you, and things. But when you're trying to just get a £10 adjustment or a refund, you know, it just seems a bit of an overhead to have a small talk with a stranger every time. And yeah, in the US it's a little bit less, but you get my point that, you know, these are the problems, you know. So if you're a small business, then it's probably fine, but these are the problems.
Sure.
And it's inefficient, you know. Most importantly, from a cost perspective, if you see 80% of the engagements are repetitive. So the agents are pretty much answering the same questions. You know, when do you open? When do you close? I mean, there are some, but the thing is that it's not cost effective or time effective for the organization to fund a live chat scenario.
Yeah.
Now, this is a very bold number. As you can see, this is a massive jump, right? This is a big number. Yeah. And actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to just jump a slide and go back to a slide that I wanted to speak at the end, but I'm going to speak on this twice, once now and once later on. So this makes sense. Now, well, this is really what happened with this chatbot industry, right? So in about 2016, Mark Zuckerberg, Facebook, announced that the Facebook Messenger would have a bot platform so that you can have automated conversations. And that really spiked interest because, you know, Facebook, I don't know whether it is still hot, but at that time it was very hot as a company.
Yeah.
And anything they said, because remember that time, I think even Snapchat was not very big. There was no TikTok. There was Instagram was not that big in 2016. So we're really talking about 5 years ago. I think Instagram has become big over the last, I would say, 3 or 4 years. It wasn't as big in 2016. It was still there, but it was not as big as today.
Sure.
And so that really spiked the interest. And strangely enough, that was just before that, actually, we had established our AI practice as a company, Web Spiders, where we were looking at automating email conversations. So we were trying to understand email and respond back. And chat was, actually a subset of that division. And when this announcement happened, there was a big spike. And so 2017, and if you go and search the startup databases, 2017 was so many startups came up with a chatbot. And you had on Facebook Messenger, there were chatbots of every celebrity. You could talk to a muffin, you could talk to a cake. So there was all these frivolous, to some degree frivolous, but entertainment. And then even companies said, we must have, I remember even Oracle with Larry Ellison coming on board and saying that, this is your new interface. Satya Nadella of Microsoft came up and said that this is your new mobile app. This is going to eat the mobile world. Oracle said that, well, this is how you're going to request for a purchase order or request for an expense, etc. So it was a massive aspirational platform.
Yeah.
And then if you notice, Amy, what happened was 2018 was a big disappointment because 2017 was where all the venture capital, where all the media interest was, and all the pilot projects happened in 2017. Okay. And 2018, there was a sudden dip. Chatbot meant like there was not a single dollar or a single pound for any investment because people were just disappointed. And they were disappointed because, it was more like garbage in, garbage out. So
it
there
wasn't
was,
done well.
I mean, there was no intelligence really.
Sure.
And the worst of all, often when you ask something, it used to come up saying, sorry, I don't know the answer.
Okay.
Or,
So there was a
or
lot of confusion in the language, or that.
yeah,
Okay.
the language was not well understood. And different countries, UK and US are a very good example. Like, you call, I remember in the UK, I think the back of the car, you call it, I believe, a boot, right?
Yeah, that's
And
it.
you call it a trunk in the US. And so many differences, there's not
Yeah,
one.
there's so many variations of the
Yeah.
same word that mean the same thing, but I guess
So,
mapping that out is hard.
so 2018 was a big disappointment, and people just said that this is one of those fads and it's going to go away. This is not just working out.
Yeah.
2019 strangely saw it saw re-emergence of chatbots. We started to see major players using chatbots. You started to see insurance companies using chatbots, and often they were, and coincidentally and with the luck of fate, instead of replacing mobile apps or instead of replacing websites, they started being part of the mobile app experience. We started being part of the web experience, and so there was suddenly value being seen, and I'll show you some case studies where real screenshots of that. And 2020, even though I think the media attention of 2020 was on the pandemic, but it was really the breakthrough year for chatbots. And now in 2021, it's actually become a strategic asset and an advantage for someone to keep building their AI knowledge base. So this is roughly the lifeline of how over the last 5 years chatbots have emerged. And I'm just going to go back and I'll come back to again. So as I promised, I want to make it really useful. I know everybody knows. So that's why you see this number, Amy. You see this massive number, which is unprecedented.
Yeah,
142 billion from 2.8 billion. So let's AI do the talking, right? So let's move on. Now, I'm going to go to some case studies. So now WhatsApp, for example, I don't know how popular is WhatsApp in Asia, in the UK.
Oh, very popular. I use WhatsApp every day for everything.
Is it with your international friends and colleagues, or even within the UK?
No, within the UK we all use it. It's a generation thing again. I think my sister, who is in her teens, it's very much Snapchat, but I think sort of it's changing because they use WhatsApp a lot more now, and I use it to contact my family, friends, business as well. It's very popular.
So there's not too much of texting then, the SMS.
No,
there's
not
much of that. It's
No,
probably all the buggy advertising messages. That's the only thing that you get on text. So WhatsApp, as you can see, that these are some examples of WhatsApp catalogs, right? And I receive them. Every time I contact a vendor, they actually send me a link, and that opens up in WhatsApp as a native catalog. So this is a huge.
I was going to ask you how this works, because I have some experience with chatbots in the kind of customer service way, but in terms of selling, I was wondering how this pops up, how this links to your phone.
Yeah, so they just send like a WhatsApp message with the link, and it natively pops up with the catalog. And then you can actually message the business, or with payment options, you can actually make the purchase.
Wow. So, yeah. Very smart, and especially like I say, my generation is constantly on the go. They constantly have their phones on them, and I think this is a really smart way to grab attention.
And in the US here is slightly different, because I think there is a lot of iMessage usage as well, along with the Facebook Messenger and WhatsApp. Strangely enough, WhatsApp actually is more popular outside the United States than within the country. But it is popular. I'm not saying it's not popular, but I think iMessage is equally popular along
Yeah.
with Facebook Messenger.
Yeah.
So really a new landscape as a retailer. As a retailer, I think having your website is 30% of your channel, right? You need to have the apps, and then you need to, so this is your third app platform, literally. And the best part is this is not necessarily a separate thing. It could be a separate thing when it's text or WhatsApp, but it's also embedded within iOS, Android, and the web. Uh, yeah. So we're talking about millennials. You use the word millennials, and this is a very controversial term in terms of definition of who's a millennial.
Yeah.
But I think uh, generally anybody younger to you can be millennial.
Yeah. I'm just there still.
Okay.
Just about, but yeah, I know what you mean.
So again, the fact is, people just don't like to talk. If they could avoid talking, they would rather text. And even if you come back to the social behavior of even if you have kids at home, or if you have cousins or brothers, younger brothers, sisters, nieces, whatever, you will see their behavior. It's not probably there's nothing to judge whether it's good or bad, but that's how they operate. I mean,
Yeah.
you talk to them, and you can see, or even if you live in the same house and in adjacent rooms, 50% or more of your communication will be happening via chat. Then certain amount, of course, face to face in the same house. I'm talking about the same house. I'm not even talking about different homes. And then the rest would be a phone call, but at least 50 to 60% would happen on chat. So, that if you remember this, the chart, it'll show you why it's it's become so important. And I'll show you examples where they're really, really effective. So let me start off with this, right? So this was the Breast Cancer Research Foundation, one of our customers we work with in New York City. So they are the leading, nonprofit for cancer research, for breast cancer research. And as an organization, they raise about over $80 million in a year with donations and grants, etc. And then they distribute, I believe all this figure is public on their website, but I believe they distribute as high as 90 or 95% to the researchers and to the scientific community, and the rest is, of course, used for their promotion and their internal operational costs, etc. So this was an event. We've done several events since then, but this was the first event. And if you see, they had an advanced revenue of $4.9 million, but the during event revenue was $400,000, which is almost 300,000 pounds. And the way this happened was via a chatbot. And what happened here was that this was a text chatbot. So as the patrons or the donors were watching the event, they could text their donation to BCRF, and they could say, $50 in honor of Beth from Charles, for example, or so generally the donors are either long-time donors, or they are donors who has had a family member that they want to remember who was affected by the disease, or in general they care for that specific cause. And as you would imagine, when somebody is texting their support, sometimes they have not included the amount, sometimes they have not mentioned from whom it is. So the chatbot actually understands what they're saying and then communicates back. Either it says thank you and it gives them a link to complete the pledge, or it would tell them, oh, thank you so much, but could you maybe could you clarify how much are you're trying to pledge, or would you care to add in whose honor or which cause, or it could be blank, but or if sometimes they say things like, for example, if it's some of the donors are sort of not very tech savvy, so when they get the number that please send your donation to say 917-383-4562, they would often text, how do I do this?
Yeah.
So earlier that would come up to somebody, it would go to an agent, and even the event would have finished, and 3 days later somebody would have seen that message and said that this is how you do it, and the moment is gone.
Yeah, I was going to say the
Yeah,
engagement is there, and it's
yeah,
making it a very simple step.
yeah,
The bot gives the information, and then the
yeah.
person has to
So when
complete.
they text that, let's say I want to donate $200, $500, $40, $1,000. Believe me, in one of the events there was one person who donated $200,000. He had already donated 50,000. He topped it up by 200,000. So we have had people like Elton John and some of the biggest stars, both in the film, music, sports, personalities, etc. On these events. So then the bot would interact. If they asked something else, that how do I donate? Can I send a check instead of the credit card? The bot would instantly answer that. And
Yeah.
then they would say finally, yes, okay, I'm good. Here is say $500 in honor of so and so. And then that message would automatically stream live on that event site. So it would encourage other donors to also donate.
Yeah.
Then what would happen is, once the event is finished, the bot would actually start a sequence follow-up cadence. So when they have not, so if they do not receive the pledges within say 2 days, they would actually send out very polite reminders and alternating between the text and the email, saying that, hey, very kind for you to donate. We just wanted to make sure that you have everything you need to donate. Here is the link. If you want to send a check, or if you want to make a bank transfer, here it is. If you want to pay electronically using your app, you can do blah blah blah, all those. But that nudge actually brought it down, because usually they had about 20% of the people who pledged, they actually wanted time to complete their pledge. It was not instant. 80% of the people complete their pledges.
Yeah.
But this brought it down. They didn't have to do the follow-up. The bot was doing that.
Yeah, sure.
So
and makes it very simple and easy and quick for the donor to complete it.
Absolutely. So they met 86% of their goals, and there are several more examples of this. Let me give you another example, something which is in Asia. So I don't know if you've heard of Swiggy. It's equivalent to Deliveroo in the UK, or Uber Eats in the US. So it's a delivery service. It's one of the two largest in India. And as you would have imagined, when you order, I don't know how much you do the order, but I am a big sucker for all these, food. I think I probably order too much. So that's another.
The convenience is just brilliant.
Yeah. So what they do is that, let's say, if usually something, it's more often than not, you place an order, you've given 5 items, and one is not available, or you want to or once you've ordered, you want to cancel one of them or all of them. Now I'll just now imagine, and they have roughly, I believe, I don't have the figures on the top of my head, but they're talking about more than 1 million orders a day. So you would imagine that actually I think it's 2.3 million, but you can Google, these numbers keep changing, but it's in the millions. So it's not like few hundred or few thousand, it's millions. Now imagine, even if 2% are changing their orders, canceling their orders, it's a big task. And if they're going to call and speak to somebody, that's, if you just want an ice cream, the last thing you want to do is speak to somebody to change the flavor or something like that, right? So this is actually a real screenshot, from a cancellation. I want to cancel my order. You can make options, and this is all happening via the chatbot. This is no human, and it's all in the thing with chatbots. I think the one thing that, in that disappointing phase, if you remember the disappointing phase, one problem with chatbots was not so much about understanding, because as you can see, with options, with pre-made options, you can overcome text or language issues. But one of the biggest problem was chatbots were not integrated with your backend. So as an example, in the BCRF case, when somebody was making a pledge, there was a URL where they could complete the pledge, and the bot was having access to the e-commerce system. So they knew that who had not completed the pledge, and they were politely chasing them back. In this case as well, when you change your order, it actually makes the refund as well. So it's completing the entire transaction. So this is another example of an item not being available. So they are saying, hey, you've ordered 3 things. So on your left, if you see you've ordered 3 things, and now that's making me hungry, but that's another thing. So it says, so it says 1 is out of stock. So please select what you want to do. And it says that, okay, I want to just go ahead and not include that one. So it says proceed with unavailable items, deliver the order without unavailable. So it says this is what it is. And then it identifies an amount to be refunded. A refund is initiated to your account and you're done.
Right.
But that's smooth. And it takes like 30 to 40 seconds.
Yeah.
Now, if this resulted in a call, the problem is it's a big friction to your business. You cannot scale if you're going to make everybody call, or if you're making everybody fill out a form, and then it is going through your ServiceNow or something, ticketing system. No, this has to be real time. So chatbots, the 2 things that was missed out in 2018 was they were not integrated for an end-to-end experience. So that was really key. And the second was it was not being used as part of a platform, as part of an app, or as part of a site. People were all thinking that you would have, say, a separate thing in your Facebook Messenger, but chatbots are really useful as part of the experience.
Yeah, and I mean, as a user, you looking at this conversation now, you wouldn't even, I wouldn't even realize that I was speaking to a bot.
Yeah.
Like it's so smooth. And I guess from a business point of view, if it's for the FAQs and you get so many repeat questions, it would be silly not to use that, because like you said, cutting down the time and the money spent on those kind of questions. And I'm guessing, obviously, you map out the conversation, but if you do get a more complex question, is that when you'd have a human kind of take over and jump in? Is that
so that's what actually it's a brilliant question. And if I were to answer this question 2 years ago, I would say that yes, a human comes into the picture, and yes, there's always a human as a fallback. But what's happened in 2020, and I'll actually come to that shortly, is something happened, and again, Elon Musk was part of it, which was an initiative called OpenAI, which is open source AI. So open source, free and open source, we call it FOSS, is actually changing the world. Some of the biggest scalable systems are made from free and open source software. So OpenAI is a foundation, is where Elon Musk is one of the contributors, where they say that, like software, we want AI to be democratized. We don't want it to be a private property of certain companies, and these are trained AI models.
Okay.
And in fact, in 2020, there was something called GPT-3, which I will discuss very shortly, but I'm happy, it's good that you mentioned. It was so powerful that the committee of OpenAI actively throttled the release, because they said it would be too dangerous for people to use it without setting up a framework.
Yeah.
And even today, for example, GPT-3 is released, but they give you tokens to use, so to limit your number of queries.
Okay.
As an example, GPT-3, you could tell GPT-3, can you draw a new image with the beach and with this and with that color and with that theme, and it would actually take your instructions and do that for you.
Wow, that's impressive.
So it's going to a level where even if you escalated a conversation to a human, it would be so far superior to what a human can do that there's just no point in escalating it to a human. And that's why that chart where, 2020 actually has been a breakthrough year for AI and chatbots. Unfortunately, it was not in the news. It was very much in the news within our community because we follow it on a daily basis. We eat and sleep conversation AI, but it was not so. And I'm going to show you some examples. So these are just some other retail examples of the chatbot. And as you can see, many of these are within their web and within their desktop or mobile experiences.
And I can see it's like filtering down. So the bot is asking questions to filter down.
But then with GPT-3 and GPT-2, which I'm going to discuss, it really honestly understands. So for example, it'll actually ask you questions that you could never imagine an AI asking you that question. So if you said, hey, I'm looking for a new, suggest me a new dress for a party. And then they would say, it would say something that would totally knock you off. Like, oh my God, how do they know that? Like, okay, if it's this, then this is the occasion, then would you like this and that? And you would wonder where did it learn all that from?
Wow, it's like your personal shopper.
much more superior, Amy. Your personal shoppers cannot even match that.
Wow.
So this is again, I would say this is the sort of early chatbots, right, which were pretty much a human laid the sequencing, and that's why initially there was some disappointments because whenever you went outside the remit, they often could not answer.
I see, yeah.
But now, for example, ZOE, coming to, so in the UK, for example, right from the Bullring Mall to Cabot Circus to the Oracle Mall in Reading, it powers all of them today. And so we get all these kinds of things. Apparently, parking is one of the most popular questions, which we never knew. The chatbot told us, the site owners never knew. And then it's evolving, right? So are you open? Is it safe? Etc.
So this is from a customer service point of view, the FAQ.
Yeah. So phone calls are fading away, really, for retailers, right? I think this is already known. Now, GPT-2 and GPT-3, I think a lot of our, they probably have not heard that. But this is, as I said, GPT-3 was something where they had to throttle the release because it was considered too dangerous in the hands of a common developer or in the hands of an average enterprise. Because, so GPT-2 was already there. It was trained on more than 1.5 billion parameters, and it had data set of 8 million web pages. So the entire Wikipedia is actually, it has understood from Wikipedia on various connections and other web pages as well. Now, what GPT-3 did, if you compare, from 1.5 billion, it had 175 billion parameters.
Wow.
Now, just to give you some context, an average human being, average intelligence human being, I shouldn't say average human being, no human beings are average, but say an expected number of parameters, they usually don't have more than 100,000 parameters. So when I say parameters, what I mean by parameters is that, for example, color. So, like the properties of an object. So you have speed, you have color, you have depth, you have length, right? All of these are parameters to an object. One is they are objects, and then there are parameters to an object. So, for example, somebody sings nice, somebody sings loud, somebody sings softly, somebody talks fast, somebody talks slow. So, if you take all the parameters that a typical human person knows, is no more than 100,000 across all the objects that they know. Even 100,000 probably sounds a lot to you, but we do know 100,000 on an average.
Yeah.
This is trained on 175 billion parameters.
Yeah, that's mind-blowing. That's
So,
amazing.
and it is generating right now over 4.5 billion words per day. Now, I don't know if you've done writing. I think many of us have always done some writing commercially to get some side pocket money, especially when you're in school. And you know that, writing two, 200, 400, maybe 1,000 words a day is probably it.
Yeah.
It's generating more than 4.5 billion words per day. So it's automatically generating text right now. And this
Right.
is with throttling. So GPT-3 is throttled right now by OpenAI Foundation. It's not let loose because they are still debating on how to restrict and have ethics on AI. But even with that, it's producing 4.5 billion. And I'm coming back to this part is because of things like GPT-2 and GPT-3. What 2020 has done is it has been a breakthrough year for chatbots. And when I say chatbot, it includes chat, it includes email, it even includes a phone. So McDonald's, for example, in the US, a lot of the ordering is done, especially in drive-throughs, is now being automated, right? So you don't really speak to a person, you speak to a robot and say that, hey, I want, burgers and fries, probably probably not the not the best use of your GPT-3, but still.
Wow, it's really impressive.
Yeah.
I'm
And coming back to ZOE, for example, these are some of the things that you need when you're setting up a bot, right? So you need, strangely enough, you need small talk, because when you have small talk, people find it more personable. So as an example, in ZOE, if we have things like, oh, I'm getting bored today, or I'm lonely in the shopping center, it will actually engage and give you interesting options.
That's it.
Sometimes it would come and tell you, have an ice cream, and here is the nearest ice cream shop, or something of that. It'll try to be funny. So we actually have a small talk database that we grow, and which is available commonly to all our customers.
And it's constantly learning by itself, right?
Small talk, I would say it's not learning, to be honest. Small talk is being fed.
Right.
Yeah, GPT-3 is where they would do that. GPT-3 is not available for general use because it's too dangerous. Small talk it's almost like Alexa, right? So when you tell Alexa something, that's all small talk.
Okay.
So that has to be done by what we call AI trainers. And so that's why you have AI trainers. So with every implementation, you have a team of AI trainers who are maintaining edge cases and who are adding that. You mentioned about failover to or backup of a live agent. So yes, there is a live agent module where they can take over. Of course, you need analytics, right? So you need to know how many messages are coming through, how many are answered, how many were successfully answered, what is the satisfaction level, what are the general things being asked, things like that.
Like the car parking, that's how
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly. So natural language processing, of course, so you cannot have, in the Swiggy's case, everything was a set option. So it was very quick. It was really nice, but it was quick. But they don't, when you are trying to order a meal, the last thing you want to do is, type, right? Because anyways, you're annoyed that something that you ordered is not available. So, but in many chatbots, you have mix of both. So you have, preset options, but you also have a free form where you can talk and you can type anything. So there is an engine for NLP that's needed. So I'm essentially giving you sort of key modules of our ZOE platform, right? So you have AI trainers to keep growing the database. You have live agents, module, bot analytics, NLP, of course, security. So depending on the kind of data in GDPR, and in California, you have the CCPA, you need to make sure that, the right encryptions are there. So as an example, we don't record credit card numbers, and if somebody is giving the credit card number, then it's redacted and stored in an encrypted way. Even passwords are encrypted and redacted, right? So even in the report, it will not come up like that. Especially in B2B situations, we have the web callback and schedule meeting. So it's like within your chatbot, once you have the intention to have a web callback and schedule meeting, you have those widgets which help you. Multi-channel, of course, to understand, it has to be over WhatsApp, it has to be across all channels, whether it's WhatsApp, Facebook Messenger, the web, even email. And finally, but last but actually the most important, I would say, all of this is fine, but the most important is integrations. It must integrate with your backend systems, because if it does not, then you're not going to complete the loop. You're not going to close the loop, right? You need to make sure that it's completing the transaction. It knows what is going on. You saw that example in the text to pledge. You saw that in Swiggy where it was making the refund, etc. So you need to make sure it's connecting to your e-commerce systems, to your CRM systems, and probably this is the best time in the since the chatbot revolution began to connect, because of platforms like MuleSoft and Zapier. Connecting, we've actually become an API first kind of a culture, which means that connecting, our increasingly systems are on the cloud and they have APIs, which means that it's easier for chatbots to connect. So even in our case, for example, for all these malls, right, the shopping times change, the catalogs change, new shops come in, new products come in. So we are actually connecting to APIs to get live data and caching it for the bot users. So it's really important. Without integrations, you would go back to 2018. Because when it says, oh my God, it doesn't really do anything. And most of the time it cannot fulfill my objective. Because the thing with chatbots is that, unlike those movies, I don't know if you've seen those movies, Amy, that, I think there was a movie called Her, where this man interacts with and then you've heard about these, some of the chatbots in China where, like 1 million people have said, I love you to that chatbot. If you've heard of those stories. Now that's nice. Some of it is true, some of it is fiction. But really, the objective for a chatbot is to get out as soon as you can. Because you're doing something, right? You're trying to shop, you're trying to get customer service, you're trying to do something. So the last thing that we want is for the chatbot to keep talking to you. We want you to do your job and get out. So it's really important that you're brief, you're up to date, and you're really quick. And if for some reason you have a very complex query, then there's instant human escalation. So with that, I think we're almost on time. Yeah, actually we're bang on time. We're 9:16. So 45 minutes. So it's really good.
That's been so interesting. We're living in such an exciting time, and
absolutely,
this fast-paced world that we live in, this is what people want and what we need. So I think bots are certainly our best friends. Everybody needs.
I mean, it is part of the journey, with Web Spiders. ZOE is such a flagship product we are powering. So, and it's the world where you first deny and then you accept. Like cryptocurrency is an example, right? So everybody denied, including myself. I denied the Bitcoin for a long time, think this is all, and then you're having to accept that, well, this is like gold. Because I'm slightly going for the benefit, just having a casual chat here. So gold, for example, we all appreciate, but in a factory setting, aluminum is actually more productive, more useful than gold. If you go to a steel factory, the workers there will be happier if they have aluminum in stock or copper in stock in an electrical factory than gold, because gold has very limited utility, but yet gold is perceived. And yet when you buy gold today, you get a certificate that you have this gold. You never really get it. Same thing is with cryptocurrency, right? So that's how you accept. So same with the whole AI piece, right? AI, there was initial conversations, will it replace jobs, etc. It's not even a conversation. Because you compare when they can do similar things. AI can do things that humans cannot even dream of doing. Like with GPT-3, etc. So it's definitely increasing jobs. It's increasing customer experience. And I think retailers can really get a leg up with a constant investment in their AI setup. It might be a chat bot, it can be an email bot. Like in the case of McDonald's, it's a phone bot, but we classify all of them as chat bots, right? So with that, if we are happy to, all the people who've attended, if you if you would like a one-to-one demo or an assessment, then please do come over to webspiders.com or zoebot.ai. I'll put it in the chat, and then you could actually request a time. We do weekly demos as well. We understand. We have sector specific bots, like for insurance, for education, for retail, and then we're happy to set up a meeting, and our demo team would be really happy to do that. So
that's fantastic.
over to you.
Thank you so much, Sid. It's been very, very interesting, and I'm sure so many companies should reach out because the product is just, it's amazing. So thank you for that, and thank you to all our participants for joining us today. I hope you found it as interesting and as insightful as I have. I'm sure you have, but please do contact us, and Sid and the team will be happy to help you. Thank you so much, and I'm sure we'll see you at our next webinar very soon.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, everybody.